Audrey Hepburn is remembered around the world as a symbol of beauty, grace, and timeless elegance. For many people, her image is forever frozen in classic black and white photographs, wearing pearls, smiling softly, and standing effortlessly graceful in films like Breakfast at Tiffany's and Roman Holiday. She appeared delicate yet confident, gentle yet powerful, and always perfectly composed. To millions of fans, Audrey Hepburn seemed almost unreal, like a dream created by Hollywood. But behind that polished image was a woman whose life was shaped by pain, loss, and deep emotional struggles that very few people truly understood while she was alive. Over the years, her son has spoken openly about her personal battles, revealing a side of Audrey that was hidden behind the spotlight. What becomes clear through these revelations is that Audrey's strength did not come from perfection, but from survival. From a very young age, she experienced abandonment, fear, hunger, and heartbreak, long before she ever became famous. These early wounds stayed with her throughout her life and influenced her relationships, her self-image, and her desire to help others. While the world celebrated her success, Audrey quietly carried emotional scars that fame could not heal. Her son has explained that although she was admired everywhere she went, she never felt completely at peace inside. She struggled with feelings of insecurity, a longing for stability, and a deep desire to feel truly loved. These struggles shaped her into the compassionate and empathetic person the world later saw through her humanitarian work. Understanding Audrey Hepburn's life means looking beyond a glamorous surface and seeing the human being underneath, a woman who endured incredible hardship yet chose kindness over bitterness. Her story is not just about Hollywood success, but about resilience, emotional survival, and finding meaning through helping others. This deeper understanding allows us to see Audrey Hepburn not as a perfect icon, but as a real person whose imperfections made her story even more powerful. Audrey Hepburn was born on May 4th, 1929, in Brussels, Belgium, into a family that appeared comfortable and well-connected. As a child, she traveled across Europe, learned multiple languages, and lived a life that many would describe as privileged. On the surface, her early years seemed full of opportunity and culture. However, behind this appearance of comfort was a deep emotional wound that would shape her entire life. When Audrey was just 6 years old, her father, Joseph Victor Anthony Rustin, suddenly left the family. His abandonment was unexpected and devastating, leaving Audrey and her mother emotionally shattered. Audrey later described this moment as one of the greatest traumas of her life, and her son would later confirm that she never truly recovered from it. The loss of her father created a sense of insecurity that followed her into adulthood. She grew up with a constant fear of being left behind and a strong desire for stability and love. Even as she became famous and admired, that childhood pain never disappeared. Decades later, in 1964, Audrey decided to search for her father, hoping to find closure. She eventually located him in Dublin, Ireland, and the two reunited. However, despite meeting again, they never discussed why he had left. This silence left many questions unanswered and did little to heal the emotional damage. According to her son, Audrey carried this unresolved pain with her for the rest of her life. It influenced her relationships and her deep longing for a stable family. She often sought emotional security in her romantic partnerships, sometimes overlooking warning signs because she feared being alone. The abandonment she experienced as a child shaped how she loved, how she trusted, and how she saw herself. Even though she became one of the most celebrated women in the world, there was a part of her that always felt like a little girl waiting for her father to return. This early heartbreak became one of the defining emotional forces in Audrey Hepburn's life. As if losing her father was not enough, Audrey Hepburn's childhood was further marked by the horrors of World War II. When the war began, she was living in the Netherlands with her mother, and the Nazi occupation brought extreme hardship and danger. Food became scarce, daily life was filled with fear, and survival was uncertain. During the Dutch famine, Audrey suffered from severe malnutrition, a condition that would affect her health for the rest of her life. Many people later admired her slim figure, believing it was a natural part of her beauty, but in reality, it was a result of prolonged hunger. Audrey and her family were forced to eat whatever they could find, including nettles and tulip bulbs, just to stay alive. By the end of the war, She weighed dangerously little for her height and was extremely weak. Her son later shared that she was close to death during this period. The physical damage caused by starvation led to long-term health problems, including anemia and fatigue. But the emotional impact was just as severe. Audrey witnessed suffering all around her and lived with the constant fear of violence and loss. She often spoke about how lucky she felt to have survived, especially when thinking about others her age who did not. One of those was Frank, who was the same age as Audrey. The memory of those years stayed with her forever, shaping her outlook on life and deepening her empathy for others. This experience became the foundation of her later humanitarian work. Audrey understood hunger and fear not as ideas, but as lived realities. When she later worked with UNICEF, helping children in war-torn and impoverished regions, she was drawing directly from her own experiences. World War II did not just shape Audrey Hepburn's body. It shaped her heart, her values, and her lifelong commitment to helping those in need. Before Audrey Hepburn became a film star, her greatest dream was to be a ballerina. Dance was her first love, and even during the darkest days of World War II, she continued to train and perform whenever possible. She participated in secret dance performances to raise money for the Dutch resistance, risking her safety to support her country. After the war, Audrey moved to London and earned a scholarship to study at a prestigious ballet school. She worked hard and was deeply committed to her training. However, despite her dedication and passion, she was eventually told that she did not have the technical ability or physical build required to become a professional ballerina. She was taller than most dancers and had feet that were considered too large for classical ballet standards. This rejection was deeply painful, especially after everything she had already endured. Audrey later admitted that she could not match the technique of other dancers her age. Yet, instead of allowing this disappointment to defeat her, she adapted. She continued taking ballet classes even after entering the world of theater and film. The discipline, posture, and grace she learned through dance became a defining part of her screen presence. Although she never became a professional ballerina, ballet never truly left her. It shaped how she moved, how she carried herself, and how audiences perceive her elegance. In many ways, Hollywood gained what ballet lost. Audrey transformed her disappointment into a new path, proving that rejection does not mean failure. It simply means redirection. Her ability to turn loss into opportunity will become a recurring theme throughout her life. Despite being widely considered one of the most beautiful women in history, Audrey Hepburn struggled deeply with insecurity. The world saw her as flawless, but she did not see herself that way. According to her son, Audrey often criticized her own appearance, focusing on what she believed were flaws. She thought her nose was too large, her feet were too big, and her body was too thin. These insecurities followed her throughout much of her life, even at the height of her fame. While fans admired her elegance and style, Audrey felt uncomfortable being placed on a pedestal. Over time, however, her relationship with herself began to change. As she grew older, she became more accepting of her appearance and more comfortable in her own skin. Unlike many in Hollywood who feared aging, Audrey welcomed it. She saw aging as a gift, a chance to focus on family, personal peace, and meaningful work rather than external beauty. She embraced wrinkles and gray hair, believing that true beauty came from experience and kindness. Her son has said that she was happiest when she stepped away from the pressure to look perfect. Audrey believed that life had seasons and that each stage deserved to be lived fully. This mindset allowed her to age with dignity and grace. Her growing self-acceptance also reflected her emotional growth. She began to value inner peace over public approval, showing that true confidence often comes later in life, shaped by survival and self-understanding. Audrey Hepburn's romantic life was deeply influenced by her childhood abandonment. She longed for stability, commitment, and emotional security, but these desires were often met with disappointment. Her first engagement ended because she refused to settle for a relationship that lacked true presence and commitment. She later married actor Mel Ferrer, and together they had a son, Sean. While their marriage appeared successful on the surface, it was filled with tension and imbalance. Rumors suggested that Ferrer was controlling, and over time, the strain became too great. After many years, the marriage ended in divorce. Audrey then married Italian psychiatrist Andrea Ditti, hoping for a fresh start and a larger family. They had a son, Luca, but the marriage was troubled by infidelity and emotional distance. Audrey also endured multiple miscarriages, which caused her immense emotional pain. She once said that these losses hurt more than anything else she had experienced in life. Despite these struggles, she remained devoted to her children and worked hard to provide them with love and stability. Her romantic relationships may have brought heartbreak, but her role as a mother gave her purpose and healing in her later years. Audrey Hepburn found the peace she had been searching for. Her relationship with Dutch actor Robert Wolders brought her calm, respect, and emotional safety. Though they never officially married, Audrey considered their bond a true partnership. She described those years as the happiest of her life. With her children grown and her career behind her, she focused on humanitarian work and personal fulfillment. She dedicated herself fully to UNICEF, traveling to some of the poorest regions in the world to help children suffering from hunger and disease. This work was deeply personal to her, as it reflected her own childhood experiences. Audrey's compassion was not performative. It came from genuine understanding. She used her fame not for attention, but to bring awareness to those who needed help. This period of her life showed the true depth of her character. She had transformed pain into purpose and found meaning beyond fame. Audrey Hepburn's life came to a quiet and dignified end in 1993 after a battle with a rare form of cancer. Even in illness, she remained focused on others, showing gratitude and grace until the very end. She spent her final Christmas at home surrounded by loved ones, a moment she described as deeply meaningful. After her passing, tributes poured in from around the world, reflecting the profound impact she had made. Her son has continued to protect her legacy, ensuring that she is remembered not just as a movie star, but as a compassionate human being. Audrey Hepburn's story is one of survival, resilience, and kindness. She proved that true beauty comes not from perfection, but from empathy, strength, and the ability to rise above suffering. Her life continues to inspire generations, reminding us that even those who seem flawless carry hidden struggles, and that those struggles can become a source of profound good. To truly understand Audrey Hepburn, one must listen to the people who knew her not as a star, but as a mother. Her son, Sean Hepburn Farrer, has often spoken about his mother with deep respect and honesty, offering rare insight into who she really was behind closed doors. According to Sean, Audrey was not interested in being worshipped or treated like a legend. At home, she wanted to be normal. She cooked simple meals, enjoyed quiet routines, and valued small moments with her children more than any red carpet event. Sean has said that his mother never pushed her fame onto her sons. In fact, she worked hard to protect them from the pressures of Hollywood. She wanted them to grow up grounded, kind, and aware of the world beyond luxury. Audrey often spoke to her children about suffering, not to frighten them, but to teach them empathy. She believed that understanding pain made people better human beings. Sean recalls that his mother carried her past with her at all times, especially her experiences during World War II. Those memories shaped how she parented. She never wasted food, never took comfort for granted, and always reminded her children how fortunate they were. Even when she was busy, she made sure her sons felt loved and safe, something she herself had longed for as a child. Sean also revealed that Audrey was deeply reflective and self-aware. She knew her flaws and spoke openly about them. She did not pretend to be perfect, and she did not want her children to believe she was. Instead, she taught them that kindness, humility, and compassion mattered more than success or beauty. In interviews, Sean has said that one of the most important lessons his mother taught him was that it's the tone, not the words. By this, Audrey meant that how you treat people matters more than what you say. This philosophy guided her interactions with everyone she met, from world leaders to children in refugee camps. Through her son's memories, Audrey Hepburn emerges not just as a film icon, but as a deeply thoughtful woman who worked every day to turn her painful past into a force for good. Audrey Hepburn's story continues to resonate today because it speaks to something universal, the idea that beauty and success do not erase pain. In a world obsessed with perfection, Audrey's life reminds us that even the most admired people struggle privately. What makes her story powerful is not her fame, but her response to suffering. She did not allow hardship to harden her heart. Instead, She became more compassionate, more understanding, and more generous with her time and energy. Her humanitarian work with UNICEF was not a late-life hobby. It was a natural result of a lifetime shaped by hunger, fear, and loss. She understood the suffering of children because she had been one of them. This authenticity is why her work continues to inspire respect long after her death. Audrey's son has emphasized that her greatest legacy is not her films, but her humanity. Today, her image is still used in fashion, advertising, and popular culture, but Sean and Luca carefully protect how it is presented. They want the world to remember Audrey not as a perfect doll frozen in time, but as a woman who lived, struggled, and grew. In recent years, younger generations have rediscovered her story through books, interviews, and documentaries, finding inspiration in her resilience. In a digital age dominated by social media and carefully curated images, Audrey Hepburn's life feels especially relevant. She reminds us that real grace comes from character, not appearance. That real strength is built through hardship, and that true beauty is found in kindness, empathy, and the willingness to help others. Audrey Hepburn did not just survive a difficult life. She transformed it into something meaningful. That is why, decades later, people are still listening when her son speaks. Her story is not about confirming a secret or revealing a scandal. It is about understanding a human being who chose love over bitterness and compassion over fame. And that is a truth worth remembering. When people think of strength, they often imagine power, control, or loud confidence. Audrey Hepburn showed the world a very different kind of strength, one that was quiet, gentle, and deeply human. Her strength did not come from dominating others or proving herself better than anyone else. Instead, it came from endurance. She survived abandonment as a child, starvation during war, repeated emotional losses, and personal disappointment. Yet she never allowed these experiences to turn her bitter or cruel. According to her son, Audrey believed that life was not about avoiding pain, but about choosing how to respond to it. She understood suffering intimately, and rather than hiding from it, she allowed it to shape her compassion. This mindset guided how she lived her life, especially in her later years. After stepping away from Hollywood, she did not chase relevance or attention. Instead, she dedicated herself fully to humanitarian work, traveling to dangerous and impoverished regions where few celebrities were willing to go. She met starving children face to face, listened to their stories, and used her fame to bring global attention to their suffering. Audrey did not see herself as a savior. She saw herself as someone who had once been hungry and afraid, just like them. This connection made her work sincere and deeply impactful. Her son has said that she never complained about the physical discomfort or emotional toll of these trips. Even when she was tired or unwell, she believed that helping others gave her life meaning. Audrey also showed strength in how she aged. In an industry obsessed with youth, she chose acceptance. She did not fight time or try to hide who she was becoming. She believed that aging was a privilege denied to many and should be honored rather than feared. This quiet confidence allowed her to live freely, without chasing approval. Her strength was not loud, but it was steady. It showed in how she loved her children, how she forgave those who hurt her, and how she continued to give even when life had taken much from her. Audrey Hepburn's life teaches us that real strength is not about appearing perfect, but about continuing to care even when you have every reason not to. When Audrey Hepburn's son speaks about his mother today, he does not reveal a shocking secret or hidden scandal. Instead, he confirms something far more meaningful, the truth that many people may have sensed but never fully understood. Audrey Hepburn was not defined by glamour, fame, or perfection. She was defined by resilience, kindness, and emotional depth. What her son confirms is that behind the famous smile was a woman who carried pain quietly and chose to transform it into compassion. She did not live a fairy tale life, even though her movies often portrayed one. She lived a life filled with struggle, loss, and difficult choices. Yet, she never lost her ability to love deeply. Her son has explained that Audrey's greatest achievement was not becoming a Hollywood icon, but remaining human in a world that constantly tried to turn her into an image. She wanted to be remembered not for how she looked, but for how she treated people. This is why her legacy continues to feel relevant and powerful today. In an age where public figures are often distant and carefully constructed, Audrey Hepburn's honesty stands out. She did not pretend to have all the answers. She openly spoke about fear, insecurity, and pain. She believed that imperfection was not something to hide, but something that connected people to one another. Her son's reflections confirmed that Audrey Hepburn's grace was real, not something created by Hollywood, but something earned through life experience. She was gentle because she had known cruelty. She was generous because she had known hunger. She was calm because she had survived chaos. This truth is what continues to inspire people across generations. Audrey Hepburn was not perfect, and that is exactly why her story matters. Her life reminds us that even in the face of deep pain, it is possible to choose kindness, purpose, and love. That is a real confirmation her son offers, and is far more powerful than any rumor or mystery. Audrey Hepburn's life offers powerful lessons that feel especially important in today's world. We live in a time where image often matters more than truth, where people are judged by appearances, followers, and perfection carefully displayed online. Audrey's story reminds us that what we see on the surface is rarely the full picture. Behind beauty can be insecurity, behind success can be pain, and behind fame can be loneliness. What made Audrey Hepburn special was not that she avoided these struggles, but that she acknowledged them and chose a meaningful path forward. She never claimed to be flawless. In fact, she often spoke openly about her fears, her doubts, and her emotional wounds. This honesty made her relatable and deeply human. Her son has said that Audrey believed life was not about being admired, but about being useful. This belief guided her decisions, especially in her later years. Instead of protecting her comfort, she traveled to difficult and dangerous places to help children who were starving, sick, or forgotten. She listened to them, held them, and spoke for them when they had no voice. Audrey did not separate herself from suffering. She stepped directly into it. This choice teaches us that true fulfillment comes not from admiration, but from purpose. Another important lesson Audrey offers is about forgiveness and acceptance. Although she carried deep wounds from her childhood and relationships, she did not live with anger. She accepted that some questions would never be answered, and some pain would never fully disappear. Rather than fighting this reality, she learned to live with it peacefully. She also teaches us about aging with dignity. In a culture that fears growing older, Audrey showed that aging can bring wisdom, freedom, and clarity. She believed that beauty changes, but meaning deepens. Her life encourages us to value inner growth over external approval. Audrey Hepburn's story is not just a biography of a famous actress. It is a guide on how to remain kind in a difficult world, how to turn pain into empathy, and how to live with grace even when life is unfair. These lessons are why her story continues to resonate, especially with younger generations searching for authenticity in an artificial age. Audrey Hepburn's legacy cannot be measured by awards, box office numbers, or iconic fashion moments alone. While her films continue to be celebrated and her image remains timeless, her true legacy lives in the lives she touched and the values she represented. Her son has worked carefully to ensure that the world remembers her not just as a star, but as a woman who lived with intention and compassion. He wants people to understand that Audrey's greatest role was not on screen, but in real life, as a mother, a survivor, and a humanitarian. Even in her final days, she remained focused on love rather than fear. She faced death with the same quiet courage that defined her life. Surrounded by those she loved, she left the world peacefully, having finally found a sense of belonging and calm she had searched for since childhood. The outpouring of love after her passing showed just how deeply she had connected with people across cultures and generations. World leaders, fellow actors, designers, and ordinary people all mourned her, not just because she was famous, but because she stood for something rare, gentleness in a harsh world. Today, when her son speaks about her, he does not speak with drama or exaggeration. He speaks with clarity and respect, confirming that Audrey Hepburn's greatness came from her humanity. She was not perfect. She was wounded, searching, and often uncertain. Yet she chose kindness again and again. That choice defines her legacy. Audrey Hepburn remains a symbol, not of unattainable beauty, but what it means to live with grace despite hardship. Her life reminds us that the most powerful impact we can make is not through fame or perfection, but through compassion, empathy, and love. Long after the cameras stopped rolling, Audrey Hepburn's spirit continues to inspire, quietly encouraging the world to be a little kinder, just as she was. While the world celebrated Audrey Hepburn as a movie star and fashion icon, those closest to her knew that her most important role was being a mother. According to her sons, Audrey did not define herself by fame or awards, but by the love she gave her children. Motherhood was something she deeply desired, especially after suffering several heartbreaking miscarriages. Each loss affected her deeply, leaving emotional wounds that never fully healed. When she finally became a mother, first to Sean and later to Luca, she approached parenting with intense care and devotion. Audrey wanted to give her children what she herself had missed as a child: stability, emotional safety, and unconditional love. She made deliberate choices to step away from acting so she could spend more time raising her sons. Unlike many celebrities, she did not want nannies to replace her presence. She wanted to be there herself, cooking meals, helping with schoolwork, and sharing everyday moments. Her sons have recalled that she valued routine and simplicity at home. Fame was something that existed outside the house, not inside it. Audrey worked hard to keep her children grounded, teaching them gratitude and empathy. She often reminded them that comfort and security were not guaranteed for everyone. Growing up during wartime had taught her how quickly life could change, and she wanted her sons to understand that privilege came with responsibility. She also spoke openly with them about pain and loss, not to burden them, but to prepare them for life. Audrey believed that shielding children completely from reality did not make them stronger, it made them unprepared. Despite her gentle nature, she was firm about values like kindness, honesty, and respect. Her sons have said that she led by example more than by words. She did not lecture, she demonstrated. Whether it was how she treated strangers, spoke about others, or gave her time to charity, Audrey showed her children what mattered most. Even when her romantic relationships failed, her commitment to her sons never wavered. Motherhood gave her a sense of purpose and healing that nothing else could. In many ways, being a mother allowed Audrey Hepburn to rewrite her own childhood story, this time filled with love instead of abandonment. Decades after her passing, Audrey Hepburn continues to feel emotionally close to people who never met her. This lasting connection is rare, especially in a world where celebrities are quickly replaced by new faces. Audrey's enduring presence comes from authenticity. She did not rely on shock, controversy, or scandal to remain relevant. Instead, she left behind a story that feels honest and deeply human. People see themselves in her struggles, in her insecurity, her longing for love, her fear of abandonment, and her search for peace. Her son has pointed out that this is why younger generations are still drawn to her. Audrey's life feels real in a way that modern celebrity culture often does not. She did not pretend to have everything figured out. She admitted her doubts and imperfections openly. This honesty makes her relatable even today. In an era dominated by filters, curated lives, and artificial perfection, Audrey Hepburn represents something refreshing: natural grace and emotional truth. Her humanitarian work also plays a major role in keeping her legacy alive. She did not simply lend her name to causes. She showed up in person. She traveled, listened, and learned. Her compassion was not performative. It was personal.